name is Leung, and I'm the founder of HotSeat. Let me put you through this quick scenario. It's Friday night, and you're home after a very long work week. You and your significant other decide to go to your favorite restaurant for dinner. But there's two problems. They don't take reservations, and you're not sure how long you're going to have to wait once you get there. Well, this is where HotSeat comes in. HotSeat is a web-based internet application that will give you real-time seating availability at these busy restaurants that don't take online reservations. Additionally, if there is a wait list, you'll be able to put your name on that list virtually before getting there via your smartphone or your PC. We wanted to see how popular this idea could be, so we surveyed people in San Francisco, Seattle, and Los Angeles, 3 major markets. And what we found is that 90% of individuals would eat out at their favorite restaurants more often if they knew they didn't have to wait as long for their table. Additionally, 95% of those individuals also told us that they would definitely be interested in using an app like this. Well, what does that tell me if I'm a business owner or a restaurant owner? It tells me that not only are consumers very interested already in our product, but HotSeat can actually help us organize our waiting list, maximize the business hours that we're in business, and manage our customers' expectations. In the city of San Francisco alone, there are 5,000 restaurants. I know I can't work with all of those. What I can do is be realistic and say maybe 25% of those would be interested in working with me. And just this, if we expand this past San Francisco into the Bay Area, we can multiply that number 3 times right off the bat. And if we expand that through the United States, who knows where this can take us? Well, we're currently in development. We have our technical co-founder currently working on our Android and iPhone application, but we are looking for additional resources. What we're looking for are people that can help us with software development, hardware development, and sales and marketing. But most importantly, we're looking to form strategic partnerships. And these strategic partnerships would be with restaurants here in San Francisco that can help us expand our business. They'd be able to help us generate additional, they'd help us generate additional knowledge base, and they'd help us get additional people to be excited about what we have to offer. So with that being said, thank you very much for your time. I look forward to hearing from all of you. Again, my name is Sam from HotSeat.
Why doesn't the restaurants take reservation? Why they have you have a wait list?
Most of the restaurants that we've talked to don't take reservations because a lot of times people don't show up for their reservations. So they would be interested in working with us because we can have real-time information for their consumers.
So what happens if you put your name on the list and you don't show up?
Well, we will work something out with the restaurant in that situation, and that's a very valid concern and something that restaurants have actually brought up to me. My response to that is we'd work something out where the customer would get bumped down on the list, and if they don't show up a few times, then they get wiped off the list. So it's not necessarily a bad situation should that happen.
There's going to be two wait lists. One is going to be the virtual wait list, and one is going to be the physical wait list that is maintained by the restaurant owner. Have you thought about how those two would work together?
We're actually going to integrate that. We're going to put initially we're going to put a tablet in that restaurant, and we're going to train the host and hostess to use this. And the interface that we have is actually very user-friendly and very simple. So the last thing I would want as a business owner or a restaurant owner is to have a cumbersome piece of technology in the front that my host or hostess doesn't want to use. So what I really would like to do is go through some training with the host, and by doing that, they'd be able to maneuver it very, very easily.
I'm still a little confused. What's the major leap forward here versus OpenTable that I'm missing?
Well, OpenTable is strictly a web reservation site. They're dealing with high-end restaurants. My market, or my target, is actually a little bit lower in the OpenTable market, and these restaurants don't usually take reservations. So if you can imagine, let's just say Cheesecake Factory, for example, in Union Square. It's almost impossible to go in there and sit down at a table. So instead of going to pick up a buzzer and standing in Macy's for 2 hours, you can actually check in from your phone and say, I'm going to be showing up here and the wait is 2 hours, so I can go shopping at other places before I show up to this restaurant. Or if you're home and you're watching television, same situation. You don't have to actually get up and go until your table's ready.
Did I hear you right in saying you've got to put a unit at the university, at the restaurant that they then have to?
Exactly. And it would be a very simple input unit. You could either check in at the restaurant or you can check in via your phone to put your name onto the waiting list.
So as a restaurateur and my staff, I've got to use not only my simple little written checklist and I've got to use yours.
Right. Well, it would just be a small tablet, like an iPad.
It doesn't matter. Have you tested out that people would actually do that? Because my suspicion is that they wouldn't.
Well, I've talked to a couple restaurants, and some have had that concern. Granted, however, some have also told us that they would be interested in seeing how this would work out. So we're not quite in the beta stage yet, so we're not really sure how that would work out. But this is something that we're planning on doing very shortly.
Yeah. Most instances of people having to use something different than they normally do tend not to work. It's difficult to change what people do.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to
Sure.
aware of
No,
that.
I understand.
Would you own the tablet and lend it to the restaurant, or would they have to make the upfront investment?
No, we would loan that to them.
How much are you trying to raise?
This is something I debated whether not to put on the slide. Our initial thought was to raise about $500,000 worth of capital. And the reason for that $500,000 number, other than the fact that it's nice and round, is that it would give us enough to hire an additional engineer, as well as get some hardware in our possession so that we can loan these out to those restaurants.
I thought the restaurants like the waiting list because it's no hassle for them.
Sure.
Plus you buy drinks while you wait, which is the most profitable part of the business.
Absolutely.
And this way they, first of all, OpenTable could add a feature, waiting list, and they already have the consumer, they already have the restaurant, they already have the hardware. So how could you introduce, I have heard that you cannot introduce another box into a living room, ever, even with $50 million.
Sure.
How could you introduce another device into a restaurant management system?
Those are actually two very valid questions. And coming back to Dan's question, we are very different from OpenTable, but I do understand your concern. So what I see here is two different issues. In our survey, we actually asked guests, and I'm not sure if you guys can relate to this, but when you go out for dinner, you have an idea of how many drinks you're going to have. Because you're waiting for an hour and a half doesn't mean you're going to have 4 drinks before you get to your table. That's the first. And then the second is introducing something like this for OpenTable would be very different, because the restaurants that are currently using OpenTable, most of their business comes from reservations and not walk-in business. This is helping the walk-in business for the restaurants. Additionally, my parents used to own a restaurant, and this was a huge problem for us. When there was a small crowd outside, we knew that customers would be driving away because they assumed automatically that there would be a wait. This would make this process a whole lot more transparent. And transparency for a restaurant, I think, is very important, especially if the restaurant's full and you walk by and you just say, I'm going to have to wait forever. But it could be 4 or 5 tables are getting up at that second.
Okay, I'd say thank you very much.
Thank you.